is Daniel Posney, and this is Shifting Perspectives. And this topic is about kind of why me, why this, why that. Why did this happen to me? Why did God take this away from me or do this to me, kind of thing. And this one might be a little difficult for some people. That if you haven't explored your own mind and the reality of your mind, that it might be a little challenging, but I invite you to stick with it. It's only going to be about 10 to 15 minutes, and you can get through it. But it might be challenging, but that's kind of where the work is this the pity and the victim consciousness is what that's called. um, there could be some real headway to get beyond what's been ailing you and what's been a problem, and of why, what's wrong with you that this has happened to you, or what did you do wrong that this has happened to you, and that kind of thing. I have to admit, I mean, I think about the same thing with myself sometimes. I think, why is it that, I really have strived to be a better person than I was, and working on myself and taking care of myself. Why can't I win the lottery? Or, I'm kind of being silly, but it's kind of like that sometimes. Why is it that people stumble across, 1,000 gold doubloons in their backyard, you know, and I'm digging in my yard. I don't find anything, it's kind of like that happens sometimes. So these days I just kind of laugh at myself, because there's two aspects of me that I kind of like to separate out. One is the one that is okay with everything. It just really wants to be just here living, and so grateful for being in a body and being on this planet for this really relatively short time. But then there's this other part of me over here, this egoic mind, this identity, the little I that likes to complain about stuff and be in fear about things and say, I should have this and this shouldn't be this way, kind of thing. And when you've ever met someone that's really in the egoic, not ego, we all have the ego, but in the egoic identity of the self, when they're completely in that, there's like no getting through to them. It's really hard to kind of break through and talk to the real person behind them. But this might get somewhere in that. So as usual, I like to speak to this on like a highly spiritual, highly reality way, but also in a practical way. So I don't want to blow people out of the water with some kind of high understanding of something. So I'm going to cover both of it and kind of let you take a taste of whatever you need. So let's start from the bottom. Let's start from the very practical. Why is this happening to me? And I'll say this with as much love and tact as I can on the practical end. If something is happening to you physically, have you put yourself in that situation? Have you made decisions that weren't good for you? Do you normally make decisions that put yourself at risk or your health at risk? How do you treat your body? Do you drink too much, smoke too much, eat too much fats and that kind of thing? Then physically that's going to have an effect on your body. And those kind of things we kind of know. The other part of it is that when you do those things, it really tends to lower the vibration of your physical body, meaning it starts to bring in, allows more bad stuff in. And when the systems start breaking down, more systems start breaking down. And then you feel like crap. And then because you feel like crap, you're not very positive minded and not very motivated to do things that are good for you. So it just kind of, snowballs down into that thing. So the first part is just kind of looking at yourself and looking at your life and saying, okay, I've kind of done this, or at least, a lot of it I've done myself. And it was because I had this abuse in my childhood, or I had this thing happen to me. It caused me to start eating really crappy and drinking very heavily and all those kind of things. But what's happening to you right now, right this split second, is none of that is happening right now. So there can be this really strong, you could make the choice of making changes in your life. But if you don't want to, then that's how it's going to work out. So that's my kind of tough love, kind of practical side of things, that how what we do and how we do them, and how we think about things and believe about things, we kind of put ourselves in that kind of general space, and you can move from that. So let's move a little higher on the scale. Let's move into like a spiritual kind of thing. Well, let's say that these things are happening because it's making you feel a certain thing and it's causing you to go through a certain experience. And from that experience, you're generating hopefully some kind of learning, or some education, or some realization about yourself. Someone that, like the guy that got stuck in the rock with his arm in the rock, he had to cut it off with a pocket knife. He got a new perspective about his life and what's important to him. And you hear about these stories about people getting lost at sea for 6 months or some crazy stuff. Their priorities tend to change, and it goes on like that, where we have these certain experiences. In my life, uh, because my father was killed when I was 12, I really learned to appreciate my father and what he did for me. And when my mom was diagnosed with a disease and then she eventually passed, it really made me appreciate what she could do for me, and how she loved me, and all those things. Because those quote bad experiences cause us to see life in a different way, especially when people pass. It really, those kind of things make us feel real love and what's the word? Precious. That's the word. It's that life is precious. So all around us, death happens. And if we're really conscious and we're aware of what's happening, we can be very cognizant and aware that life is so precious. And it can cause us to look at our life a little bit and say, okay, how can I look at my own life and how I do things and make things more precious? So there's always some kind of deeper meaning in there that causes us to dive more spiritually into our lives and have a deeper meaning for our life. And it's all based on how it's making us feel. So shit happens in our life, someone dies, we get ill, we have an accident. It's causing us to make us aware of something, or something is staring us right in the face. I work with people that have been in a job or an industry that was heavily masculine, and they were a woman, and really wasn't a match for them in the long term. And then something happened which caused her to have an accident, to have some illness, which caused her to start expanding in her feminine energy as opposed to masculine. There's stuff like that happening all the time. I work with a lot of people that are living a life that is a little bit out of balance in their masculine energy. And if that goes far enough, then they start to see a shift in their life that causes something to be presented to them that is more in alignment with their soul. Like me, I was working a job, great job, making 6 figures, living in Santa Barbara. Everything looked great, but things started to dwindle away. Things started to poke at me, and I started to be less and less happy with the job. And that's exactly what I needed to get into the life that I live now. But if that would have never happened, I would have never got that hit. And I don't even know if I would still be around, because I was just sinking deeper into this lost place. So let's go to a little bit higher. Let's go to this thing about, why is this happening? Why does God do this to me? Or why did God take this person away from me? This is the one that might be a little challenging. And I want to say this in a way that I don't scare you away too much. But I don't believe that there's someone out there that takes things from us. And as exalted as that being might be, that it doesn't make decisions like that. And I think it's kind of I don't know, it's a bit of a cop out to blame it on God, to blame it on a divine being, to say that, he, she, it is making these decisions that is going to take something away from you. And If you're still here, this is a real point in healing, that you can stop blaming God. You can stop blaming someone out there for something that what you feel is being taken away from you, or hurt you in some way, or giving you an illness and things like that. That's not God. And yet all of it is God. So I invite you to expand your idea of God, that it's not just a being that is sitting here judging and taking away and giving, depending on the kind of person that you are. It's really not what's happening. And in my understanding, what's happening is energy. What's happening is that there's a flow of energy that exists everywhere as everything, and it's what we call God. And God is in everything, and God fills in empty spaces. God expands out into there's more of that. It's just an expansion and a movement of energy, and we're examples of that. The camera that I'm looking into is an example of that energy. My water bottle is an example of that energy. So expand your idea of God and what you think God is doing or not doing. And it's a very liberating concept. And it's a very liberating position and perspective. But there needs to be some push beyond the mind, because the mind is very determined to keep you in victim consciousness. It's very determined to keep you pitying yourself and saying, this always happens to me. And that will stick as long as you let it stick. And I really want to stay in tenderness on this. I don't want to just give kind of tough love on this topic, because I don't want to do any damage. I don't want to hurt any feelings here. But that mind, that thought is the one that's causing you the suffering. That's the one that's causing the problem. And there's no one out there that's going to listen to your story of pity and victim and feel sorry for you and give you what you need. I know it's a hard one. It's hard to think that if I complain loudly enough and I give out my story about how hard that this has been and how terrible this is, you're not going to get the heart of some being that's going to give you what you need. There needs to be a complete shift in who you think you are. You are not your mind. You are not these pitiful thoughts and this victim consciousness. You are the one that is aware of the pitiful thoughts and the victim consciousness. But the mind doesn't like that. The mind pulls you back. I say that and the mind pulls you back. It's got some excuse. It's got something to say. You feel that when I say, you have pitiful thoughts. I have pitiful thoughts. My mind goes, yeah, but shit happens and this stuff, and I don't know why I'm the one that gets these things happen to, and I'm the one. If you really feel into that, there's an egoic thing. It's very egoic. It's very, look at me, I'm special, I'm different. Everyone else deserves greater love than I have. But I'm different because I've been used and abused and I've been hurt. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that abuse that you've had. I'm sorry for whatever happened that caused you to shrink down into something other than love. And you've tried to find your way beyond. You've tried to push, and you've tried to get angry, and you've tried to show people how angry you are and how much you've been hurt. And you thought that would do something. You thought that would be the solution. If you were just loud and painful enough, that you would get something from that. I'm sorry, but that's not true. But there's something even more empowering that we do, that we can do to become liberated from the suffering. And it's really looking, it's really what they call self-inquiry. It's really looking at, it's really as your mind is giving you thoughts and giving you ideas, is to somehow stop and look at it and really question it. Yeah, that thought too, and that thought, and the thought that what I'm talking about is not true, and I'm just different. You know, all those kind of thoughts about that the mind is giving you, is to question all of it. And eventually you get to the why. Is there is no why. Stuff happens. Stuff happens, and then we give it meaning. Good things happen for no reason. More often, those good things happen when we're in alignment with our soul and not so much our mind. When we're in alignment with our heart and not so much our thoughts. That's when more good stuff seems to happen. I would say they do happen. Well, what happens usually is that stuff happens, we give it meaning, we create a belief out of it, and from that belief, we attract more. And we get sunk into that so deeply, we keep asking, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? And I want to bring you back to my analogy or my metaphor of the room, the holodeck. When you're in that room of pity and victim consciousness, and why does this happen to me? It's hard to get out of that room. There's really no getting out of that room. I remember my dad told me this joke, if you can call it a joke. It's barely even a joke. It's a riddle. And it's just ugh. I remember him saying, you know, you're in a room with no doors and no windows, no cracks anywhere, no nothing. There's nothing in the room. It's just a blank canvas of a room, completely contained. Don't even think that there's nothing in there. But there is one thing. There's a stick, about a foot long. It's a pretty thin stick. How do you get out of the room? This is so stupid. And he says, after we're sitting there anguishing over all these ideas about how you get out of the room, you take the stick, you break it in half, two halves make a hole, you crawl through the hole. Isn't that stupid? And yet, that's something that's kind of what I'm talking about. You got to think outside the box, completely outside the box. It can't even be positive thinking, although that will help. But if you don't believe it, then it just hurts even more. It really needs to be separating you from your mind. You need to pull yourself out of this connection that you have with the mind. The mind has been telling you all these things, telling you that this should hurt you, and this is a painful thing that God has given to you, and this has been done to you. You need to pull yourself out of that. And here's those old thoughts. Now they're separate from you, and now you get some space between you. You realize that good stuff happens for no reason. Bad stuff happens for no reason. And it's only good or bad because we choose it to be so. I know it's frustrating, so frustrating. I'm such a good person. Why does this happen to me? I really take care of people. I think about other people. Why does this happen to me? Why can't I get what I need? I'm such a people pleaser. Why do I give to people all the time? Why can't I get what I need? Everything was going my way. Why did I have this accident? There is no logical reason. It just happens. Although, if we think quantumly and energetically, we can align ourselves to more good things. And that's what I do. That's what I do in my life, is I help people align more with their soul, with the quantum field, with good things, with more happiness. And part of that work is pulling out those negative and limiting beliefs that are in the way of that, that are obstacles to that. Like, I want to be loved, I want love, but I don't deserve love. So I'll kind of, it's kind of leads me to this other thing that I usually say is like two twins are running a race, both physically capable in exactly the same way, except one believes in luck. And so she keeps a copper penny in her pocket, and they run the race, and the one with the penny in her pocket loses the race because she had the weight of that one penny in her pocket. So do you have anything that weighs you down and gets in the way as an obstacle to getting what you want? Do you feel that you don't deserve love? Do you feel not worthy? Do you feel not enough? Do you have those kind of old thoughts that have been sticking with you? That gets in the way of abundance. Being a people pleaser, being a person that doesn't believe that they deserve love, that people shouldn't get close to them. God can't get close to you. The universe can't give to you. But all those things can be fixed. All those things can be resolved. I want to read you something from a book. So this is called Oneness. And this idea might be new to some people, but let's take it to the really high level for you that are ready for this. It would have been easy for you to arrange to birth yourself into circumstances where today's newfound understandings were already at hand. And you might have spared yourself much anguish and effort and time had you chosen to write your life script in that way. Yet, had you done so, you would have denied yourself the firsthand experience of the dramatic contrasts that are now so vivid for you. To have lived through the poignancy of your key episodes have served to underscore for you the revelations of this experience of spiritual breakthrough. Had you not had the taste of the bitter as well as the sweet, you would have emerged with a theoretical understanding, supported only by your observations of the trials and tribulations in the lives of others. And while you ultimately come to bask in the exaltation of your divine connectedness, when that state is at hand, the profound intensity of that experience is that much more vivid by virtue of the contrast your life dramas have provided. You have not failed yourself for, quote, having taken so long in your journey of awakening. For the vantage point, God, I'm getting emotional talking about this. For the vantage point that awaits you at the summit of the mountain would not have carried the impact that is possible had you not made the arduous climb. If you got a helicopter ride to the top of Mount Everest, it wouldn't have been so profound. In order to avail yourself of the richness in the experience of knowing your divine connectedness, it was necessary to avail yourself of the richly contrasting details of the experience of separation, your separation from God. In order to appreciate fully the realization that you are creating the essence of your life experience, it was necessary that you explore in raw detail the experience of injustice and victimization. In order to know yourself to be truly all-powerful, it was necessary for you to experience the agonizing frustration of not being able to implement your will. And in order to know unquestioningly that there is a divine foundation underlying the entire experience you have come to regard as life, it was necessary for you to create the conditions in which that divine essence could be questioned. It was necessary to experience the adversity that underlies a state of separation in order to realize fully the magnitude of the divinity that radiates from within you. The so-called dark side of your nature was given liberty to express through you in order that you might be able to recognize the vibration inherent in those patterns of response. For it becomes abundantly clear that those states of being do not feel good. The horrors of the depths at which some of you explore the world of physical reality are a graphic illustration of the levels of vibration from which you have chosen to ascend. That's why I went into the muck. That's why I went into so much darkness. I kind of got used to it. I kind of got proud of being able to be in the darkness, be in the muck. And from being in the muck, now I can really see the light. You now have an experiential reference point at hand with which to contrast the physical, emotional, and experiential sensations that are part of the ascension process. And you have a basis for the profound sense of humility and gratitude that naturally result from a life's journey that encompasses the extremes of human experience. As you look back over the amazing itinerary you have programmed for this lifetime, you can look back with wonderment at the awesome richness of so much of it, and you will have formed the basis for your understanding the adversity being depicted by much of your world. Every once in a while, I'll take a long bicycle ride in the heat. Every once in a while, I'll take a 1,000, 2,000 mile motorcycle ride in the cold. Every once in a while, I'll do something challenging to my physical and emotional and my mental senses. And it's after that experience that I'll gain something. I'll see some kind of a contrast. I'll get some kind of epiphany or some new gratitude for life. And I know that that's what this life is. This life of many lives, of many experiences, of many manifestations of energy and God gives me, my soul, my spirit, God, a new realization, a new experience, a new epiphany for life. Maybe that's the why. Thank you.